How's it going, everybody? Today on JawaTalks, I've got a very special guest. Please join me in welcoming Dee Tails, known for his creature and droid performances in a few Star Wars movies. We're going to go over all of the characters that Dee has played, some of my absolute favorites, and you know us Star Wars fans, we love the aliens, we love the droids. We're going to get into the best of it with Dee here today. But first of all, Dee, how is it going? How have you been? Tell me about what you've been up to.
What's up? Oh yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
Of course, yeah, it's my absolute pleasure.
Everything's good right now, I was just talking to you off camera for a bit about StatueCon. I'm heading to that at the end of the month, and spending some time in Michigan and Chicago, just doing some signings and just being around. I did that last year and just ended up in whatever place possible and just ended up doing some signings in some comic book store called, what's it called? The Rabbit Hole or something like that. But just meeting people. I love it.
Isn't it great? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of cons coming up. I know we were just talking about Rebel Scum Con. I'm not going to be able to go, unfortunately, just because of scheduling conflicts, but I will be at Fan Expo Boston, which I'm super excited for that same weekend. So I hope to see some people there. If anyone sees me, say hi. But yeah, again, Dee, thank you so much for coming on. Super excited to talk about your characters. But have you been enjoying Star Wars lately? I love to ask this question. Like, have you been watching the new shows, the movies?
It's an interesting question. That is an interesting question, because it doesn't matter about whether it's lately or not. Yes, I've checked out the Mando and Grogu movie and stuff like that, and I loved it. All I wanted was another extended episode, or another season. That's all I wanted. And I watched the Maul show. Just phenomenal. You can't go wrong. Can't seem to go wrong with the animations. I just love it. But outside of that, I'm not really craving Star Wars because I have it. We have DVDs now, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I got my Clone Wars. I got my Rebels.
Mm-hmm.
And then
You're a Rebels fan?
and then I got the prequels. And I got just the original. Look, I'm not starved of Star Wars. When people say I want something new, I'm like, hang on, man, you haven't even got your head around Revenge of the Sith.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's just I dig it like that.
I got you. No, I know. I do the same thing. I'm so guilty of just watching the same thing over and over and over, but I can't help it. I'm a fan. What are you gonna do?
I do the same thing, but how I kind of like evolved a little bit into actually watching the shows. What I used to do before was on repeat, just watch the making ofs.
Yeah,
and
those were amazing though.
Yeah, and there wasn't that much of it. I fell in love with George's story. There were several. There was only there's maybe two or three, about two or so documentaries on George and how he got the movies made. That were just heartbreaking and kind of like so rewarding. And all those types of things. And I remember those from when I grew up watching the making ofs after Sesame Street and things like that. Right, as a kid, and not knowing what the hell was going on, and I saw Miss Piggy and Kermit in a swamp, and then I saw the guy operating them, Jim Henson, and they're talking about creating some dude with green ears, and I was all in. If I hadn't seen that, I don't know if I would be into Star Wars, right? But when we're talking about the behind the scenes, I say this every single time, like the prequels DVD box set, there hasn't been anything that's ever come close. To how much information is in that. I mean, I found myself watching that for hours. Like I wouldn't be necessarily into all the drawing and all that kind of stuff. It's like if you show me a slideshow, that's great. But if you're talking about it in depth and whatever, it's not something I would normally be interested in. I love artwork and stuff, but for like, you want to talk about it for how many hours, right? You know, there's only so much I can take. But with this, you're just in it for the long run because you know what it is they're talking about. You know what it is they're drawing. But that making of, that's absolutely still pristine. No one's touched that.
It's so amazing, right? Just all the behind the scenes with Star Wars. I mean, even since the beginning, just everything with the visual effects, and it's so revolutionary since the 70s, you know what I mean? And I'm sure that's, you know, as someone who's played like the droids and aliens, I'm sure you can appreciate all the work that goes into that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But it's just, you know, it's one thing to kind of like be in love with that whole world building scenario, to then start kind of being a part of it all. You know, those are two different spectrums. I mean, you know, I have one take as a fan, I have another take as someone who worked on the stuff, and they don't always align. like you know, like any day job, there'll be some good parts and there's gonna be some bad parts. But to get you through it, you just have to keep thinking about the good parts. You know,
Yeah.
so it's very real on that, in that context. But then at the end of the day, it's what you get on the screen afterwards, and then you kind of then I sit back, and because I can't see my face in any of these projects, it's easier to jump back into my fanboy boots and just kind of, yeah, what do I like about that? What don't I like about that? You know, what do I have to blink several times before it's off the screen before I can move on?
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny to me because growing up watching the movies, my favorite part was always like picking out the random characters in the back. And before, like, this is when I was a kid, before I knew about any of the backstories and stuff that already existed, I would look at them and I would make my own backstories up in my head because that was part of the magic for me. But it's so cool because like the amount of effort that seems to go into each one of these background characters is so remarkable. I'm sure all the prosthetics, all the visual effects. So I'm sure you can speak on that more than anyone.
You know what I've fallen in love with at the moment on Instagram is, like, I follow a few people. I can't remember their tags or any profiles, but they pose like their action figures in all these little poses. And now it come full circle because I'm like, oh man, look, we've got all the characters to choose from, and I miss that.
Yeah.
I miss that. Make up your own stories, you know, and whether Leia's in there or something, and she's like making Han jealous or something, and then jumping on the ship or what, you know, it's just. And some characters, of course, some characters you've got, they don't have to have a jetpack, but you can make sure they fly. You say, yeah, they have.
So awesome. Yeah, I mean, I guess I would love to get into some of your characters. I know your first one was in The Force Awakens, right? Is it Cratinus? Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Cratinus. He's just back there. You're laughing, just the laugh. You know what I mean? So awesome.
It's so surreal now because that was a while ago. That was a few minutes ago when we did that movie. You know,
over a decade now.
Yeah. And the guy who's opposite me, Tom Bell, you know, this was the first time we were working together, but it worked so well, you know, and he's just put up a post because he's going to be in the next, he's acting actually in the next Tom Cruise movie. And Tom's wearing prosthetics, I think, or whatever. And I'm looking at it, I'm just thinking, wow, the trajectory, you know, of thing, you know, and there's other performers that I know that are on other levels and they're moving through as well. And you're just thinking, you were already working before you even hit Star Wars, most of them anyway. You know, it was my first kind of like stepping into that whole world. It was almost like surreal, like being like turning up at Hogwarts for the first time or something. And to see that some of these people are still working and still going. Kieran Shah was working years before Star Wars, right? You know, and he's still going. The dude is still going. I love him.
He's awesome. I love him too. He's pretty great.
You know, but it's that thing. And then you look at those moments that I was a fan of in the making of these movies, where careers were just starting, or careers were transitioning, or careers were just taking a hiatus because this was so much fun it wasn't even considered work, you know. Yeah, I just look back on things like that and remember. I remember moments shooting that. I remember my first day on set. You know, I remember the procedure of testing out this foam head, you know, that had one expression, you know, and they wanted that one expression to pop at a certain time, just as a possibility, because you didn't know if JJ was going to want it or not. And then once it was accepted, and you're acting with a twin brother with a different expression, and they're saying, well, he makes you laugh, and you're always getting one over on him, so he's always got his head down going, oh, and you're going, ha, ha. You know? But then realizing just the artistry of what it was I was doing, because when you tilted the head down from a certain perspective, it looked like it was a different expression. You know, so it always lent into that transition of a laugh, as if, yes, after you finish laughing, his face changes again, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, and then also meeting people that had worked with the Muppets. Dude.
Oh yeah, that's so awesome.
Dude, see, I was watching Sesame. Look, it was all about Jim Henson for me. You know, if it wasn't Star Wars, man, I would have prayed for Jim to still be going. You know,
yeah.
that hope that, you know, maybe I could be that obscure little cabbage in the background doing some singing or something. You know, but yeah, it's still mind blowing to this moment. You know. And that's as a fan, how did I get that job as a fan?
I think that's the best part of it is seeing, you know, people who are fans and kind of land these roles and be a part of the universe, because it's so cool, just because everyone loves Star Wars, right? But it's being a part of it as a fan, it's got to be the best.
Well, there are degrees. There are degrees. Yeah? There are people who are fans. They've watched the movie a couple of times, right? Then there are fans like us who have watched behind the scenes 100 times. You know, so if you were hired by ILM, there's very little that they could throw at you that would come as a surprise. Yeah, I'll give you one example. I'm on set. You know, the first time I'm on set, I'm surrounded by all these pros that have worked on James Bond, worked on this and worked on that and whatever. They know their stuff and they're all excited because it's Star Wars, right? and our characters, the Abjurians, we were supposed to be quite short, as we are in the comic books, right? That followed, and we had these shoes on our knees, and this whole thing about the body length and the arms were all different, which is why they didn't get someone like Warwick to play these characters. And I met Warwick Davis. Oh my goodness, right? So
yeah, awesome.
You know, and so this wardrobe lady, she says, "Okay, we can take in the shoes because they're not in shot." And I'm like, "There are 3 cameras in this room." I know ILM. There are 3 cameras in this room. And they don't have to say action to be rolling and taking some stuff, because I know what they do. If it doesn't work, they'll flip something around and rejig it or whatever. And she was certain. She was like, no, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, this is where I'm learning along the way, right? So I'm learning my craft. So I'm learning that when it comes to continuity, I have to own that. And I can't give it to a wardrobe mistress to do that. Yeah. And so she took the shoes. And I think in the shot is cropped, so you wouldn't have. It's 50-50 as to whether you would have seen the shoes or not. In the behind the scenes, there's a couple of seconds, like the behind the scenes they've got for Force Awakens is about 20 minutes, and they were shooting. They've got days of reels on every single one of these movies, and you're lucky if you get a 20-minute slot of the behind the scenes now. Right, but there's a moment where I'm holding my feet and I'm rocking backwards and forwards and I'm laughing, and I'm like, yeah, I miss them shoes. I miss them. but they were a part of me. Yeah. They were a part of me. Without those shoes, I wasn't fully. I was only 95% complete as a character.
Mm.
Um,
Were
but
you sorry, were you originally going to play one of the Hask triplets, the little furry?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That was the first character I was brought in for. And
Mhm.
I think Tom Bell was brought in for the same because I think there was going to be a gang of them, and um, we got fitted for those characters, and then I had a phone call saying they decided to go another way, and at that point, that's when they decided to bring in I've forgotten what they're called. What was that gang that came on the Millennium Falcon in the Force Awakens? And they were Asian guys, and they were from the
Oh,
martial arts.
yeah, Conja Club.
That see, Country
Yeah,
Club. See, I know what I'm talking about. I just don't know the names.
yeah, no, yeah.
And so they decided there was going to be a whole big thing about them, which turned into nothing, right? But
All right.
it was going to be a big deal about something to do with them. And so I'd lost the part, and I just thought, wow, if this is as close as I get to Star Wars, then I must be doing something right, man. So I'm like, thank you, Lord, brilliant, thank you, right? Like I've made it. That was it. That was it. And then I got a phone call a week or so later saying, "How do you feel about working on your knees?" And I'm like, for puppetry, Star Wars type stuff. Because because I'm talking to the same guy who's going to employ me, right? So he's being
Mm.
shady about what the project is if he can't say nothing, right? And I'm like, yeah, I know what you're talking about, and yeah, I would do that for Jim Henson. Yeah, I would do that, right? And then that's how I then got brought in for the second time round. But I really and truly had thought that I'd had my shot, and that was going to be it. Yeah, and that was going to be the story that I had to tell for the rest of my life, like how close I came to Star Wars.
Mhm.
And then this character just evolved, and it was one of the most beautiful things because also having filmed and done stuff before in the past, I know how long these breaks can be before the cameras start rolling, and I knew on a set like that it was going to be murder, right? From heart to heart, right? I
Mhm.
knew it was going to be. I knew it was going to be tough, and it was just instinctive to try and get used to this character that you only spent a couple of seconds in, looked in the mirror, then you would have to go home and remember those movements or how you would move in a suit like that, you know.
Mhm.
And Tom and I had worked out this bouncing routine where we would just keep going, and we were talking in a different language and stuff, and alien language, and then it would always end in me laughing and stuff like that, whatever. And we would have the wardrobe department on the floor. We'd have the photographic department who took the pictures for the visual dictionary just lose their mind, you know. But we just kept going. So in between the takes, we just kept going, and we were entertaining the crew. We were having the other essays and other creature performers coming to the table in between, and just doing some kind of like improv just to help with everything that was going on. But it just felt so organic. It just felt so right to do that. And no one knew I was in the suit. They can't see my eyes, you know. All I can see is if they take a glimpse at me or something like that and start laughing. And I look at them and I start laughing, and we just all start laughing. It was just a beautiful, magical experience. I can't explain it, but it
That's
was
awesome.
everything that I would have done and more for Jim Henson.
That's amazing. Well, how did it feel transitioning from an alien to playing a droid in the next movie you were in Rogue One? You were was it Kohn? Con?
Con, yeah,
Con.
rhyming with one, um, because that's yeah, that's a story, man. I think I'd done such a good job on the Force Awakens as Cratinus, just bringing that spirit of enjoyment to a set in character, um, that it then got pitched to the director, of Rogue One. What was his name? Gareth Edwards. Yeah, got pitched to Gareth for me to play the principal droid. So K2SO was originally going to be this droid. So we spent 4 months designing this suit. I was going backwards and forwards. They were taking measurements, meticulous measurements for this suit. This suit was beautiful. It fit so well, you know? And there were so many ideas for it, because in the story, what was going to happen was eventually he was going to get shot and blown to pieces. And then we were going to mimic that scene in Empire Strikes Back when the Wookiee carries him on the back, carries C-3PO on his back. So they had all my parts laid out for that. Yeah. So I was going to be carried around on someone's back at some point or whatever, paying homage to Empire. And it had to come to the final wire, because I hadn't heard anything. And then I heard a week before shooting. No, I didn't hear it. I found this out on the day.
No.
You know, and they said
they threw you in Jeddah, didn't they?
They said, look, we're going a different way with that droid now. And the only question that I had was, do you still need me? And they said yes. And I just thought, okay. And so I heard about the redesign of K2SO, and it sounded like everything I would have heard about on the behind the scenes, you know. And they said, well, we started off with this design, and then George thought, no, let's take it one step further. And then it just evolved into this droid that was almost like a combination of this new droid and a skeleton version of what those big droids were in the Clone Wars, you know, with those big dome things or whatever. It's like all that armor off, and then you've got this little head, you know, and you've got this droid. And I just thought, okay, well, that's a natural progression. And then they said Alan Tudyk was going to do it. And I'm like, what, you mean the dude for my robot? That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, how am I even going to compete with that? It's not even like he's just going to he would have done my voice. He's doing the whole thing. I'm just like, okay. It sounds awesome to me, right? I can't wait to see it. But as long as you need me, you know. And then they slotted me in Jeddah. Jeddah again was one of those absolutely magical moments for me. It was like, we knew it was guerrilla filming. Gareth Edwards was known for doing guerrilla filming, and I'd heard through the grapevine, get ready for a long day, and get ready not even to hear the word action, just go and, you know, just keep your eyes and ears peeled from when they're saying cut, right? Which is a tough thing if you're in a suit, especially if you're like Ian White and you're in a big Morph kind of white furry outfit, where you need oxygen and you need fans going. So you've got literally maybe a minute at best or 30 seconds to do high energy stuff before you are gasping and sweating buckets, right? But for me, this droid suit, look, I'm like in a black onesie with some wires on it. Then they've got the plates on it, so my body is breathing. The visor is awesome, so I can see all around, even though I've got these LEDs there. So the air's coming through that way. Underneath the jaw, they drilled little holes so air could come in if I needed it in the headpiece. But also the jaw came off too, so I could look like RoboCop during the break, right? That's how I thought, right? You know, but the suit was so comfortable. And they put me in one section at first, and they said action, and they were off doing their thing. And then I worked out a little 30-second routine that I would just keep repeating. And then they said, well, okay, no, let's have you down here. And they had me down from the level that I was on. They brought me down onto the ground where the marketplace type things was. And all these kids were there. And so I started improvising with these kids. These kids were amazing, dude.
That's awesome.
So my voice is reverberating, and I'm talking like this in the suit. And one of the Asian girls, what was her name? I can't remember her name. And she was encouraging the other ones not to break character, just stay in character. And they just kept hanging out with the droid and stuff like that. Ivy Wong, that's her name, Ivy Wong. Bless her little heart. She's a big girl now. She's done loads of work. She's done tons more work than me. Bless her, right? But Ivy Wong was a total professional, and I was just hanging around chatting with these kids and all these scenes, and they had seen that. And then they moved me around, and then they had me go over to a down speeder, and as if we were scrapping for parts. So I was with these kids, and I was picking up all these parts. And then at one moment, there was a break, and I was still in my suit because my suit wasn't overheating because I had a lot of air coming through, and I was staying in character all the way through and walking around the marketplace just in case. And I think one of those just in cases ended up being used as footage on one of the rides at
Oh,
Disney.
really?
Yeah, there's people sent me some footage and said, "Oh yeah, we saw you," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I remember doing that to the camera."
That's so funny. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it just popped up. I think it was for one of the rides or something, and then the kids were coming back from their break, and their carer said, "Oh, go and play with your robot friend or your droid friend." And as they came running over, I got really excited, and I was like, "Oh, good to see you." And it was only that little snippet of a second that ended up in the movie, and I'm like, well, that was the most wholesome part of my whole entire day.
There you go. Yeah.
Because those kids are going to grow up remembering that they were hanging out with a droid on that set. It's the same thing with The Force Awakens. Anybody that worked on that set, and even if it was just on that cantina set, would remember, there was these two characters, and they were making everybody laugh, and that's it. It's like there's work, but then there's also inspirational work. That keeps everybody in the mindset of where you are. And if I was just a fly on the wall, I would expect to see that. I would expect to have that, and to be able to be in a position where I'm needed or being asked to be a part of a multi-million-dollar movie or something like that. And while I'm there, I'm able to give something back to production, or give something back to, especially to these kids, man. Imagine the 12-year-olds that we were watching these movies, and you ended up seeing something like that. You just take that with you. And I just I don't know, but I just hope Ivy and those guys remember that moment. But
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. Yeah.
But that's what it means to me being a fan. I know what I'm giving back. That's why also in some of these films, like I said, there's some great moments, and then there's some dodgy moments, and you're just like, is that Star Wars?
Yeah.
Or yep, that is definitely Star Wars. My mind's working like that, and I don't have much to go on because I only know the scene that I'm in, and watching the rest of the movie later on, that's the moment where everything goes, to see what you were part of. But yeah, the droid, I miss that droid. He was the original L1 droid. I mean, they made more suits of that after that, and he was used and utilized again. Like, I got used in the marketplace, and then they called me back for a reshoot. And right at the beginning, you're seeing an alleyway, and you're seeing a red one walk, and that's L1. They just gave him a spray paint.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah. His suit appears again in Solo. But by then they've made a few other suits similar to L1. But yeah, that's the original droid.
Well, we'll get back to Solo, because spoiler, your character in Solo is one of my favorite. We'll get back to him. But before Solo, you got to play with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, technically. Slowen Lo in The Last Jedi. You did the performance, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt did the voice, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I didn't find that out until afterwards. I mean, I did ask Ryan. I said to Ryan, can I do the voice for this thing? And he said, yeah. But that was before they took it. That was before they took it to LA to get the audio done. And then you've got people lined up to saying, can we be a part of this? And Joseph had worked with Ryan on Brick. And I watched that movie literally before I even met Ryan. Yeah, and I didn't even know. Right. So I'm like, hey, you directed Brick. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. And so, you know how these directors are and their friends and stuff like that. And,
Yeah.
kudu happens sometimes. But it was one of those things where it was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful thing that happened. But yeah, he popped up because we were shooting the casino scene, and you have about 300 people in that room.
I'm sure, yeah.
And we're working with models who are working for the first time, who were elegant enough. They were creaturing up and all this kind of stuff, and it was something quite spectacular. They used the whole studio for that, and I think it was the James Bond studio? I can't remember. It was the full length of one of these studios. Yeah. And so I didn't know where they were going with this character. I was told that he was just going to be a beachcomber, and he was going to look up and see a ship flying over, and it was going to be one of those Star Wars shots. I'm like, oh, cool. Okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
Then it changed into, no. He's one of the wealthy guys who frequents this casino. And I'm like, okay. And all these bits of information affect the way that I'm supposed to perform, the way that I carry myself, right? And then I was told that, I was told that he was rich. I was told that he was a beachcomber, and information was coming left, right, and center because no one could pin it down. And I just went up to Ryan. I said, Ryan, who is this dude? How do you see him? And he said, oh yeah, well, he's just, he's one of those, he's a hippie. I'm like, dude, okay.
Yeah.
And so he had that kind of swag to him, but everything was kind of just, it's just, about, it's very, very laid back in his movements. And then before we even got stuck into that, I was flown to Croatia. So it was my first time working on location on a Star Wars shoot. And I get there, and the set designers have already been there for 4 months. So the whole streets are lit up. They look like it looks like a Star Wars city. They got all these lights around the doors and all this type of stuff. And the locals were told, no, you're not going to shoot anything. They signed all these contracts, and it didn't matter because they were just still looking out the windows, taking all these pictures and leaking them to the press. Right? So, but hey, you can't blame them. It's Star Wars, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And so while I was there, I find out that I'm also playing Brother Let Rum Play. This guy who's in this white robed outfit, and he's got the classic alien look, but his skin is really, really pale, but these cobalt blue eyes and everything like that. And it was so cool, I couldn't see out of it, and I couldn't hear out of that suit. And so I had an added earpiece for the first time, and then I was given this stunt girl called Claire, I think it is, who was going to be the lady on my arm, who's going to just going to make sure I wasn't going to walk off the edge of the wall or anything like that. And we had to react to the wall exploding because they were going to have Finn and Rose on the Thaddeus come bursting through the wall. And so we had to react to that explosion. And so for a couple of seconds, you see Brother Let Rum Play in that. And then there was a scene that you only see on the behind the scenes of a sauna. And I'm playing Lexo Suga in that sauna. I saw your profile. I was gonna start liking all your posts today, but I was thinking, no, this hang with me, because you had a basketball team, and I'm thinking, hey, you're missing Lexo Suga, man. You're missing Lexo. He's about 8 or 9 feet, and those long arms. And but I played him. He was a masseuse, and they've got him in the Canto or something like that.
So awesome.
But in that scene, you've got the best thing that kind of made me chuckle. And the thing is, because you can't see me in Lexo Suga, because I'm on my knees, I've got a screen in front of me, and I've got these rods where I'm operating his hands while someone else is operating his head, right? Yeah. But on the screen, I'm watching. They said, do you want to see what you see, or do you want to see what the camera sees? I said, let me see what the camera sees. And so there's this moment where Warwick Davis is in this pink bodysuit with this one eye, and he's got this rag in front of him, hiding his shame, right? And as he walks forward towards the camera, you see him go. You see this face like it's too hot, right? And I kept giggling every single time I saw that because he did it so well, right? Yeah. And in that scene, the Thaddeus are supposed to cut across the roof and all this glass rains down. They cut that scene, but they have it in the behind the scenes. But that was a good character. So I'm playing all these little parts. Then I'm also helping the crew out. So I'm helping the crew with the Thaddeus and setting them up for the street scene when they're going to burst through. So we had this life-size statue that they had rolling down the street kind of in place with these stunt guys on there. So I'm fully a part of this production now. And Dee, help us with this. I'm hands-on with all this stuff. And then, yeah, those are the two. And then they said, oh, Slowen Lo, he's over here. So we want you to do this bit on the beach scene. So you're going to be talking to these cops and telling them that they crashed on your beach or something like that. I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm meeting these guys for the first time, and they're in their police suits, and they don't speak a word of English. So you got a translator there, whatever, and they're just doing their job. They're just so cool. They're just so professional, you know. Awesome. And I'm spotting like these people sneaking pictures here, there, and everywhere, and I'm not hiding. I'm just going, hey, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, and we filmed that scene. As far as I'm aware, that scene was flipped, right?
Oh, really?
So on the screen, I'm sure it's flipped. But just talking to him and then the hand gestures or whatever and stuff like that, and that was me done. You know, and having this holiday in Croatia, you know. Then they fly us back to the UK, and then I've got the casino scene, and this was one of those magical moments. And there's another magical moment that happened, and it was on Solo, but we'll get to that, right?
Oh,
but
yeah. We'll
this magical moment was having these two puppeteers who were operating Slowen Lo's face. Yeah, and so Ryan says, okay, because they had a casino table there and people like that were playing casino, playing their game or whatever. And I was going to step forward. I had 2 steps to make, 1, 2, and then point and say, yep, those are the guys over there. Yeah, or those are the shuttle parkers, right? And the guys that were operating it, how I do it. I'm not a CFX performer, so it's not like with CFX performers, the puppeteers, they say the voice and you just do the motion. Yeah, I'm an actor in that suit, so I need to know I need more motivation than being like a puppet, right? So when I do it, I rehearse my movements, and so I'm saying, oh, those are the shuttle parkers, and then I'm gonna jump. Yeah, so they know my beat. Yeah, and so with the rhythm that they know how I'm going to say it, we say it together, or I'm saying it with them because I've got the earpiece in, and because I can only see, I'm only looking through the nostrils, and to find you to line up, I have to look through one because I can't see you otherwise because I've got all this blank space here, right? And so I line up, and then now we have the first rehearsal, boom. And then they said, okay, let's go for a take. And I go, boom, boom. Yep, those are the shuttle parkers. And I went, oh, like that. They called it was one take. When you see that, it's one take. And it's one take because these guys know what they're doing. Yeah. It's just like, I'll give you the body movements. I'll give you everything I can to make that happen. Yeah, I'll give you my 50%. You give me your 50%. Yeah. And they did that solidly. So when you see that jump on his face or whatever, just the one take. And
awesome.
I know it impressed Neil. Neil doesn't know that I know. But Neil turned to somebody and said, that D is good, isn't he?
There you go.
So you know, those are my props that I got. But I'm always beyond grateful for that interaction with these guys. These guys have worked with the Muppets, dude.
Right. Yeah, the Muppets. Yeah.
Yeah, and see, it always comes back to the Muppets. I'll put my You know, I'll put my trust in their hands any day of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah. If Jim's gonna do it, then I would do too. So it's just one of those things. But Slowen Lo was absolutely incredible. And then the movie came out, and they didn't credit me correctly. So they put Joseph Gordon-Levitt's name up, and my name was supposed to be underneath it, right? But they stuck my name in the bump. And so I went through all of this stuff, and they're saying, yeah, that's Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I'm giggling my butt off. I'm just saying, no, that's not Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He did the voice. No. Yeah. He did the voice. But I'm giggling because they're thinking it's him in the suit, and he ain't saying nothing, and Ryan ain't saying nothing. So I'm like, let's see how long this goes on for. But it was an honor to have him do the voice. It was an absolute pleasure to play that character and have that experience of being on location in Croatia playing that character. Then coming back to the UK, like, you know, Croatia's outside the casino, the casino's inside in the UK, right? And having that whole transition, learning to be part of the production of the CFX team in that whole journey and that whole experience was, you know,
get a vacation out of it.
Well, yeah, no, but it's one of these things, and I only have these moments because I'm looking at it. I mean, as a fan, it's like when I first saw Force Awakens, and there was all the hubbub about, oh, it's not original, it's this, it's that, it's whatever. I'm like, as a fan, I'm stepping back, not as someone who's taken part of it. As a fan, I'm saying, yeah, but they're writing the story. You don't know where they're going with it. You can't say this until you've seen all of them. You know, unfortunately, we did get to see all of them, and you know, some of those fans were right.
Yep.
But they can't take away the Star Wars moments that I've had. You know, in that galaxy far, far away, and what the whole entire experience has been like working with puppeteers, animatronics, guys who are wearing pullover faces, guys who are wearing prosthetics, and all of these things, and being part of a 30-second scene or a 10-second scene or even a 1-second scene, and how perfect your second has to be. You know, that's what I love about filmmaking, because every scene is creating like this amazing piece of art. You know, for just that second. You know, I don't get to be one of the main guys. I don't get, you know, I'm not in the multiple scenes, multiple, you know, knowing all the story or anything like that. So all it is that frame, that little contribution that adds to that world building, that connects and helps make what you're seeing look real. You know, but yeah, the experience has just been unbelievable. You know, I'm working with some of these people.
But
well, yeah.
There's one, you know what I'm gonna say. My favorite character you played, and one of my favorite Star Wars aliens, because I'm a big fan of the Pikes, big fan of the Pike Syndicate. I have always been so intrigued by Quay Tolsite, who you played in Solo. I would love to hear Eddie and all things you have to say about your appearance as that character, because he looks awesome. I love I love his design. The costume's incredible. Just how he goes out is really funny to me. But please tell me about your experience as Quay Tolsite on Kessel in Solo.
So Solo is probably my favorite Star Wars job that I got to work on. You know, that could change any day of the week, where I'd probably say Force Awakens because it was the first thing, you know. But as an actual performance piece, Quay is my icon, man. I loved everything about it, and that came about first of all through Phil and Chris, the first two directors. Yeah. Those legends, those legends that left the project because they wanted to go and get Oscars on you know, Into the Spider-Verse and stuff like that. You know, I would do the same thing. You know, I love those. But, just that character came late in the day. I had already been playing a Gotterite with Tom Bell again, who was Prashi in The Force Awakens, my twin brother. And we were playing another twin set of these really handsome Gotterite looking fellas. Right. And then I was told, oh yeah, there's a computer room scene that we need you for. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, you know, what is it? And it's like a droid room and you run it. So I'm thinking, oh, maybe I get to be a droid again, or maybe I'm an officer or something, or maybe I'm some kind of creature and I'm running this droid room type thing. I'm just thinking all these things. Because also these things that happen, you hear these whispers first. You hear the whispers fly through first before anything's laid out in concrete. And then like I heard that I was going to be in this room. Then I heard that I was going to be running the room. And then I heard, okay, so you're going to have to see, what's his name? And yeah, Andrew Jack, the guy who was going to be giving me my verbal coach and who passed away, unfortunately, during COVID. Lovely, lovely guy. He's the guy with the beard in The Force Awakens when they stood around that table and and they're questioning things.
Yeah.
Just real cool dude. And he was like doing the language for me. So we worked out this guttural language. Oh, that was the other thing. Sorry, going back to The Force Awakens, I have to say, Cratinus, his voice was done by Mark Dodson, who was a gremlin. He was a gremlin,
really?
Dude. That's yeah. So awesome. And funny thing is, he did the same sounds that we were doing. So I remember saying first, like when that first came out, oh yeah, we did the language. Then I heard, no, they changed it. They changed it. It wasn't your voice doing that. It was Mark's. I'm like, who's Mark? Say Mark Dodson. And I looked at him. I was like, gremlin did my. I was like, okay, like, cool. Okay,
yeah.
But for Quay, I got to do this language where it was just, it's just revolting. Kind of thing, yeah. And it was going to sound even worse coming from this headpiece. And so I didn't know much about this character, so I had the wardrobe people. They showed me an image, I think, before I tried anything on, and I was like, yeah, but who is he? What's the deal? Because normally I'll check in with them and say, do you have an idea of how he moves or something like that? Because sometimes for them, they just have no idea. And when you bring it to life, it just blows their mind. And then sometimes, like also in Solo, I played Regineer Teed. He was a Cloud Rider, and they had an idea of how he would move. And so I was like, okay. So with this guy, they said, oh no, you have to go and see Jake about it, you know, and one of the and Yestin. Oh, was Yestin? Yeah, you have to go and see Jake Lunt about it or whatever. And then Jake was saying, oh yeah, you know, he's a redesign of, you know, of the Pikes. Some guys who had and I'm like, I know the Pikes. Yeah. I know the Pikes, right? And he's saying, oh yeah, they had the big heads, but his has been cut off at the back because he's out of a punishment and he's been sent to this planet. And he's been given all these breathing apparatus because it's his punishment for failing in something or whatever. That's why he's there, and that's why you look the way that you do. And I'm like, okay, cool, right? So first, now I'm like, okay, now I'm going to rewatch all my stuff on the Pikes, right?
Yeah.
And so there were these things with, you know, you get the occasional head movement type stuff, but then also because their arms, they've got really long wrists that move or whatever, and long fingers and stuff like that. And they said he was going to be holding keys because his name was going to be Quay Tolsite because it's key, you know. And out of the American mispronunciation they called it Quay, right? And so we had this little conversation on Twitter when it was Twitter a while back, and I think who was I talking to? It was someone, a spokesman for Pablo Hidalgo or somebody. And they said, yeah, that's how we kind of settled it. And I was like, okay, if that's how you settled it, then yeah, okay, it's a play on words. Play on words. Because then he's holding these keys, right? Which was supposed to be the thing. And so I remember getting these keys and this big long chain, and and working out how I was going to hold it, because I was going to memorize how I was going to hold this chain and how I was going to hold these keys, how many times it was going to wrap around my wrist, which way it was going to wrap around, and so, which would give me the best space between the hands, and so I could still operate the pipe piece as a pointer. Now, I then get this head. Now, this head that they put on has this gold rim around it, but in the corners it's mesh, so the air comes in and you can't see it, right? So I can breathe. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is amazing, right? Then they had the LED lights, and there's mesh behind the LED light, and so the lights are on that way, and I can see from behind them. So I'm like, okay, so I can see these things, and I can breathe in this headpiece, which came in handy because the back piece had to be screwed in, right? And so I couldn't take that head off unless someone got a drill piece of it and took the pieces out of the back, right? That's how they got me in and out of that head, right? So thank goodness that I don't have a claustrophobia.
Yeah.
But the headpiece came, and then the layers of this costume. It was silk and wool, melted silk and wool together, and it weighed. It was quite heavy, and so when I held my hands up, I had to hold my shoulders up, to carry this thing. And so I remember after a day or so or whatever, my shoulders were freezing in this position, and I had to go to the craft. You know where they give you all the sweets and all that kind of stuff. That. And luckily, those guys were masseuses.
Oh, nice.
So I was like, oh, brilliant. Oh, back in the costume or whatever.
Yep.
But then there were these things where I was working out. They had me in the tunnels, and I was working out his walk, how he was going to walk with purpose, and all these types of things. And then we had these rehearsals, and shooting a few bits and pieces with Amelia Clark and Phil and Chris, and so we're shooting this in the computer room. They had me walking into the computer room, and they said, "Oh, like you own the place." And so I'm like, "Yeah, there you go. I own this." Blah 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 blah, and cracking them up off camera and things like that. But that was brilliant, and working out the choreography with the cast. And so I'm there with Phoebe in her droid suit. I'm there with the Mother of Dragons, of course, and I'm there with Woody Harrelson. Woody Harrelson, dude. Woody in the skip outfit. Oh my goodness,
awesome.
And I'm always like, how many other people know that this is a skip outfit? I'm like, how many people know this? How many people actually know this? So I'm having those kinds of experiences, and then there's a break, and we go off and we shoot in the south of France. And I'm a cloud rider this time. I'm playing Regina Teed and so on and so forth and whatever. And then by the time we come back, there's been a whole shake-up and there's been a whole change. And everything's on hiatus because Phil and Chris have left, right? And I'm like, oh, man. I'm like, I love those guys. I'm like, oh, no, what's happening? What's happening? And then they said, okay, well, Ron Howard's stepping in. I'm like, Richie Cunningham. Okay. I can dig that. I'm like, hey. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm like legend. I used to rush home to watch Happy Days. Everybody else production-wise is talking about everything he's directed and this, that, and the other thing. I'm just thinking about the kid I was when I saw him acting with the Fonz, right? And so my first day meeting him, it's on what's the planet for the Pikes?
Kessel. Obadiah.
Yeah.
They're on Kessel and Solo.
Yeah. So we're on Kessel, and they've got the Millennium Falcon parked up. All right. Okay. I'm like, that's one thing. They've got Chewie on set, and they've got Han is on set. Amelia's on set. The droid's on set. Nando's on set. I'm like. And they're getting some notes from Ron Howard, and then Ron calls me over. I'm like, I'm like, dude, I'm like, stay cool, stay cool. Right. So I'm there and I'm getting all these notes about how they're going to shoot this and how long it's going to take and stuff like that. And he's joking about saying, oh, we'll shoot it in a week or whatever. And everyone knows that that's going to take about almost a month to shoot. Everything that he pointed out he was going to shoot, yeah, that's about a month. Right. But he was joking. But just meeting him for the first time, and then I got to rehearse a scene with him, you know, and he's saying, well, you're going to greet Kira, and she's going to tell you about what they plan on doing, and you want you to look away as if, what is she talking about? All I want to do is imprison her, yeah, and I want that ship, right? And you know, and so it all starts evolving, and so whenever he had any questions, just that he wanted to clarify, he called John Kasdan over, and John came over, and they're just meeting of these minds, and it's like, yeah, that's what we're going to do, and I'm like, oh, great. And so I'm having this, I'm in this suit or whatever, and I'm rehearsing this thing outside scene with the Mother of Dragons. And I'm like, this is, I'm like, this is what these masks are for, you know.
I will admit, Amelia Clark has always been my celebrity crush growing up. So I am truly jealous that you got to have that experience.
Yeah, you know, when they say don't meet your heroes, they're not talking about her. You know,
she seems like a very genuine woman.
Absolutely lovely, you know. And also, you could always tell when she was on set because you'd hear her laugh first, right? Yeah. And that was the thing. I was always hearing her laughing and stuff like that. And then it's in action and she's doing these scenes. And it's not until you see the movie that you realize how complex, how amazing her performance is in that movie. And you wouldn't think that just before that she's just cracking up about something, you know. That was another level, seeing what we actually shot on the screen. But during the scenes, I then got this note from Ron Howard, and he says, "Oh, it'd be great if you could just put that thing under her, put your pipe underneath her chin, and just kind of say, okay, we have to see if we can reach some kind of arrangement or something like that, right?" So I'm like, dude, this isn't a prop. This is actually metal, because normally they give you a rubbery type thing or something that's flexible. And she says, "Oh no, that's okay." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about this thing hurting you. You know." Yeah. She's like, "Oh no, you're right." Like, but Mom, but I'm like, yeah, but this is right. And so we did that scene, and then the next day we were shooting on Coruscant, where they were going to be rushing through, and I was in my jumpsuit as Reginae Teed as one of the Cloud Riders, because originally how Phil and Chris had set it up. Originally, I don't know how many people know this, but originally the Cloud Riders were going to be in nearly every scene, and then they were going to flash back saying, "Oh, did you notice them in this scene? Did you notice them? They've always been spotted. They've always been following. They've always been around." So I was being shot for one of those things, and then he called me across this big studio, and he goes, "Dee Tails," and I'm like, "Well, Howard just yelled out my name on set." And he says to me, "That scene we shot, it looks really, really good, really good." I'm like, "Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy." And that was a moment, because up until that moment, you know, makeup and everybody, you know, I think they just kind of saw me as an extra and didn't really know I was in all these different scenes as a creature, and they're all ignoring you, like, oh, their noses are up in the air and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And after that, it was like, oh yeah, he's okay, because Ron Howard called that his name, right? Just these little moments, these little things you kind of find out while you're shooting. And then we went back to the computer room to reshoot what we had been doing with Phil and Chris. And so we're shooting this sequence, rehearsing it, and that moment where L1 stands up and says, "Yes, this is a liberation type thing," or whatever. I was on set for that, you know, and everyone's like, oh, the lighting, everything's amazing about it. She's backlit and all this great stuff. And then Ron says to me, "Come over here, come sit in one of these chairs and take a look at take the weight off your feet and look at the monitor." And so I'm looking at the monitor, watching myself come through doorway, like, oh, I'm the king of the castle type thing. And then I noticed this gonk droid. Yeah, Jimmy V was in this gonk droid, and it came out of the wall. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, what? I totally geeked out. I forgot I was supposed to be watching myself on the screen.
Yeah.
You know, it just blew my mind that a gonk droid walked out of the wall. You know, it just that, you know, that fan moment, you know, that Star Wars thing kicks in.
Too well. Yeah.
Yeah, so it went from me, what do you think of your professional performance walking through that door, to totally forgetting about it, not even noticing it. That was a great moment. But yeah, you know, that was amazing. And then we had the lead up to the heist. Yeah, because as I kind of got the gist of what was going on, because I wasn't handed a script. Yeah, I kind of got the gist that this is one of those fast beat moments, you know, of how they take over the joint, you know. So I'm like, okay. Then but there's this moment, and I'm like, Woody Harrelson is stood in front of the door, and we're rehearsing this thing, and he's gonna blast everybody, and I'm like, right? And so they close the door and everything like that, and my face is up in the glass, and I'm watching him go pow, 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 and then twirling these things. I'm like, right?
Pretty awesome.
You know, it's Woody Harrelson, dude. It's Woody, right?
Woody.
It's just the coolest thing, and he can say, if there's ever a Western, if they're ever doing a Young Guns or something, he has to be in it. Yeah. And if he's in it, please put me in it. I'll tend to the horses. You know,
I'll come help. Yeah, I'll be a horse.
Yes. Who end up in all these scenes? The two of us.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Right. But then, you know, and then the second unit said to me, okay, we're going to have this moment where you're bringing them inside, and you're planning on hijacking them and imprisoning everybody. So you've just imprisoned Han and Chewie, because those monitors were actually working. Those monitors actually showed footage, right, of what was going on in the room. And I'm like, okay. And they said, and the door's going to slide. I'm like, I'm going to have a Star Wars door slide in front of me. I'm like, this is just too cool, right? And they say, you're going to put the key in, and then the door's going to slide. And I'm like, okay. So I put the key in, and as the door sliding, I looked. I did one of those looks, and so the door went like that. It just had to happen, dude. It was just so Star Wars. I couldn't resist. And they didn't say anything. They just kept it. And I'm like, of course you're just going to keep that. Of course you're going to keep that. And then I had my butt kicked by the Mother of Dragons in that room. And it was
that's so what cool. I was waiting to ask about. Did you actually get your butt kicked by the Mother of Dragons?
No, they got a stunt guy in Darren Knopp. Darren and his brother Knopp, the Knopp brothers. I love them. I love them to pieces. I haven't seen them in years, right? But Darren went on to be Moon Knight.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Very he's cool. That good. And then he went on to be in John Wick.
Oh, wow.
Is it John Wick 3 they've done?
Pretty
or John
action
Wick 2?
heavy stuff, yeah.
These dudes are insane. That's why after that stunt, they're like, "Is you sure that's all you want? We can do more. We can do more." And of course they can do more. But because of the style of the shoot and the style of that heist, it had to be that quick. It had to be that flashy and swift, and it had to look that comical. And especially when she bashes his head against the thing, I'm just like, yeah, man, yeah, it had to be like that. I was giggling on set. But awesome. Then I spent a good day or two with Amelia kneeling on my chest, you know, rehearsing these things, taking these things out, and I'm like, if you gotta go, man. At least the Mother of Dragons, you know, it's on my CV, had my butt kicked by the Mother of Dragons. That's
pretty awesome.
You know, my only career regret is that my career hadn't started a decade or so earlier, so I could have been in Labyrinth or working on something to do with the Muppets, to be perfectly honest. You know what I mean?
You were up to some other pretty cool stuff, though. I know you had quite a successful music career too. So
yes, yeah. You know, it's just one of these things. But you know, it's the fan base that picks up. It's fan base. You know, Disney won't mention it, but the fan base, you know, amen to the fan base. They'll mention it. Yeah.
Yep.
Toured with Janet Jackson, had remixes from, oh my goodness, Jodeci on several pieces.
Incredible.
You know, what else? You know, on the Bad Boys the movie soundtrack.
Yeah, I knew. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Just things that just don't happen to, or weren't happening to, British bands at that time. And we got signed. Well, listen, we're related to the lineage of Columbia Records that said, okay, look, we need you to sign these guys. Who are they? What they called? They're called New Edition. Okay, cool. Then they said, okay, we don't have a white New Edition. Sign these guys, New Kids on the Block. Okay, now yeah, we don't have a black New Kids on the Block. Sign these guys, M&A.
Yep.
That's cool. That's the lineage that we have, you know, and that was during the Tommy Mottola reign of Columbia Records, and just turning my world upside down. And then everything that I had been watching up until that point in terms of choreography, in terms of styling, because I did the choreography, did the styling, did the raps for the band, and did BVs. Yeah, the other guys did their featured vocals and just had to go along with everything that I gave them to do. You know, being friends and all that kind of stuff, and into the same music. You know, it went from, yeah, let's emulate BBD and Guy, you know, to let's emulate. It then evolved into emulating more to do with New Edition and things, and Jodeci. Jodeci were our main icons, man. You know, so whenever we did a live show, it was more Jodeci orientated in the vocal and live performance. Whenever it was TV, yes, you have to do the routines for, you know, your pop channels and your R&B channels, and you change up certain routines. So if it's a kids show, you know, it's a PG routine. If it, you know, for the older guys, it was just full on R&B. And I used to work at Wembley Stadium. I worked at Wembley Arena as a steward, you know, and I got to see so many concerts, dude. I saw so many concerts, man. You name the artist, and I probably saw them, man. Awesome. But we have to go back if you want to mention some of them. But you know, when I'd seen Bobby Brown, I'd seen Janet Jackson, I'd seen Johnny Gill when he opened for Janet Jackson. I saw George Benson. I saw Paul Simon. I saw Billy Idol. I saw Madonna. I saw them all, and then I saw the two main factors which had a massive impact on my life, which was MC Hammer. So I had an audition for MC Hammer out in Oakland, California, and that would have been for the Too Legit to Quit World Tour, but he lost money and went bankrupt that year. And so what the plan was, or what I assumed the plan was going to be, was when they came back through the UK, they were going to say, oh, we've got a local boy and blah, blah, blah. And I would have done my bit or whatever and been part of the show that way, which is what he had done on the Please Hammer Don't Hurt Him tour as he traveled around. And that same, I think it was at the end of that same year, I had met the New Power Generation, but I had seen Prince 9 times on his Nude tour. You know, that was the tour where he had Bat Dance, man. 9 times. I mean, I knew about Prince, but I didn't know about Prince until I saw Prince. Yeah. Just you know,
he had it all. Yeah.
But the show he put on, and just that period of time. So going from dancing like Hammer's crew and Bobby Brown's crew, and then Prince having the 3 Game Boys who end up being part of the new power generation, you know, what they were doing on stage for him. A lot of those influences impacted me when I started choreographing Emanate. And so, you know, there was a moment where our show would open and the light would come on over each one of us, and it would all sound mechanical, and then we'd have these 4 steps and ba 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 ba, and then we'd go into this just emanate, get up and get down, you know, this just the show opener. It'd be everybody get up and get down, emanates in the house, and we run across the stage doing all of that, and it would end in an explosion and the lights would go out. Yeah, and then we get up and we do our set. But those walks were taken from Prince's Party Man, when the guys were on stage and they would walk on stage and they'd go walk, 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 walk. All hail the new king in town, Party Man. Right? And then the track would start. And I'm like, that's our opening. Right? So I had all of these influences, not to mention everything that was going down in the New Jack Swing era for dance moves and things like that. We'd done promotional tours with TLC. Oh my goodness. Just the names like Onyx. Onyx. We rolled with Onyx when they came to the UK, you know, and so I took inspiration for that when I wrote the rap for Touch the Sky, and then everyone thought it was Onyx on the track, you know. Just amazing. Just, you know, it's just like everybody's at the height of their game and you're given this opportunity and you're like, well, that's how we deliver. And Janet Jackson was looking for 3 acts to open for her. She saw our reel and said, Emanate, that's all I want. And so we had to work out like a 20-minute set.
Yeah.
You know, and in that 20-minute set, we had a costume change. Mm-hmm. You know, yeah. we tore that stage apart, and there was a step that we had in a walking in place step that we had on the Happy routine, and on one of her shows, the band Janet Jackson's band said, "Wait for this track," and then we watched them because we watched them every show. When they performed their track, they did the walking in place, and I'm like, "That's my move. That's my move." You know, but my career, you know,
it's amazing.
What can I say?
It's such a cool transition. It's such a unique transition too from R&B musician and touring with Janet Jackson to go into a Star Wars actor. That's so cool. It's so cool.
And I didn't even audition for Star Wars, so you know, I've got a lot to be grateful for. But before Star Wars, before M&A, I trained to be an actor. I thought, you know, I want to be in action movies. I want to be in Bad Boys 29 or something, you know, and you know, or something like that. That's where I thought my career was going. But
hey, you got to be in Batman. You got to be in Batman.
Yes, I did. I did. Yeah. Yeah, Christopher Nolan, Batman Begins. Yes. But we'll see. Look, I thought I was going to be in these action movies and playing these roles and playing these parts. And it started to be everything about what inspired me as a kid started to be that direction that I was moving in, you know. So I grew up and I loved Adam West's Batman, you know. I love that stuff. But I love that old 60s version. I used to rush home to watch that and Happy Days. They followed one after the other. Yeah, on the weekend you got lucky, you had a Sesame Street and you had those two, right? But to be a part of Batman Begins, when I can't remember how many years before it was Michael Keaton's Batman, I was trying to get on that movie as a runner or something. Yeah, and I needed to be able to drive, and I wasn't old enough to drive, or I didn't have a license or something, so I couldn't do it. Right. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't even get close to that production. And then 10 years later, there's Batman Begins, and Christopher Nolan is only hiring 30 actors to play character support in case he needs to hand out dialogue. And they were very, very clear that it's not extra work, it's not essay work or whatever, that he needs to hire 30 actors to hang around in the background just in case. And I was one of the 30. But that entire production was one of these things for me where myself and another actor, Andrew Price, were walking around the set, walking around this incredible set that was built from top to bottom. Like the first day on set, I walk on and all we heard was this sound reverberate in the whole airship carrying like studio. And it was looked over and it's the car. Yeah. And you're like, oh my goodness. You're walking around Gotham City and you're looking up at the Narrows and you're seeing washing lines that are just up at the rooftops. Like they build it from top to bottom.
Unreal.
I get to watch who's the actor who played Commissioner Gordon?
Oh, don't tell me. Oh no, I know. Gary Oldman.
Yeah. See, I know I can throw these out and you'll get it, right?
I would have lost some credit if I didn't get that one. That took too long.
Hey, we got there. But hey, I got to see him rehearse his line, deliver his line over and over again for rehearsal take, recorded take, and everything that he did, he changed up. He changed it. And me and Andrew stood there, and as actors, we were the only ones there standing watching this and saying, you know what he's doing, right? He says, yeah. He's giving the editor options. And it's like, yeah. And you're watching a master at work.
Awesome.
And that was the job that told me, look, if I don't like this game, I don't know what else I can do, because I don't know how to flip burgers at McDonald's and stuff like that. I don't know how to do that. I couldn't have guessed that it would have turned out this way and it would have led to this, let alone being introduced to a Star Wars fan base. Like I never knew the fan base existed like this. Yeah, I thought we were all Star Wars. I thought we were all just random Star Wars fans, and it's just someone you met on the street or met in the club or something. I say, oh, you like Star Wars? Yeah, that's all I knew. Conventions, they were things that I saw in the back of comic books advertised, that were happening in America. And I just thought, wow, there's a place where you could just read any comic book you want, and it's in America. Since then, I've done podcasts, I've done interviews, I've met Star Wars fans. I've been to conventions. I went to San Diego a while back, and just been absolutely blown away by this community, and it's community that just loves the entertainment factor that they were given and blessed with as children, to be given something like this. I don't know what this generation have now, other than the parents that say, look, man, you don't want to watch anything now. We need to go back 10 or 20, 30 years to your childhood, but yeah, we're a really fortunate bunch of people,
For sure.
And yeah, I really, really do appreciate, even meeting you, Sam, and actually talking about stuff that we know and we love and we watch.
Well, that means a lot. And as someone who, does this a lot, and I started my page about a year and a half ago. It really hasn't been that long. Obviously, I was a fan long before that, but I just started doing podcasts this year, and it's just connecting with different fans, different people who have been involved in Star Wars. It's just such a pleasure. Just seeing how much everyone does. It's so cool to see how much a passion, even something as simple as a movie or TV, it can bring people together, and it's pretty great. So yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate all the time that all these stories that you've told us. I mean, this is what it's all about, learning about, for me, kind of learning about what it looked like being a part of the films. And it seems like you had amazing experiences being a part of all of them. So I appreciate it. Appreciate you coming on. It was an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate it. Do you have anything you want to say to everybody before we log off? Anywhere they can find you on social media, anything like that?
Yeah. You can find me on Facebook. You can identify my image on Facebook because it's just Daffy Duck. I love Daffy Duck. And that'll be my page. Instagram, it's D underscore official Dee underscore Tails underscore official. I think that is. But yeah, just just check me out. It's all good. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, always have been, and yeah, I'm happy to share all of these stories with you. I just love all this stuff, and thank you for having me on, Sam. I love your page, love everything you're doing, and just keep going, dude.
I appreciate it, man.
It means a lot. As they say, may the force be with you.
All right. I'll catch you guys later. I appreciate the viewers. I appreciate you, Dee. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.
Much love.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of Jawa Talks. If you want to see more Star Wars content, go check out the Jawa Den on Instagram and TikTok. And as always, may the Force be with you.